Good evening, folks, and welcome to G-Star Vault Live, the safe place for paranormal evidence. I hope you have all had a lovely weekend, and what a better way to end it. And I hope you're all energized for the week ahead and looking forward to the week ahead. Thank you for joining me if you're joining live or, after the fact. Post-production, as they call it. Thanks for the support and coming along. On that note, let me get up some of my banners. So please share and help our channel. And let me put that one up for a minute. Perfect. And then get rid of that one. Lovely jubbly. Yeah, so if you can, please give us a like and let me know you're here. Say hi in comments. I did have a couple of comments before going live. Mickey Aquariums, thanks for your comment. For some reason, it seems to have disappeared, which is weird. But Mickey did come on before the show to say that he was going out for a meal, so he didn't know whether he was going to make it, but had come along and give a like anyway. So thank you, Mickey, and I hope you have a really nice meal. And then we had a comment from Stealth Andy Steve, and he was putting the kettle on. Hopefully he's got a cup of tea in hand and all ready to go on this Sunday evening for this show, which is called Mission to Mars. But before we get into Mission to Mars, I do want to share something with you guys that happened live on stream last week. So if you didn't join last week, where were you? But if you did, you might have seen it. But the thing was, at the time when this happened on the live stream, I was sort of small on the screen. And so to kind of share with you, I've had to zoom in and then had to kind of do a bit of filter and a bit of changing the sharpness of the image so that it was, because when I zoomed in, it was completely blurred. But I just wanted to share this with you. It's something kind of strange and spooky that happened on last week's live stream. Last week's live stream was called UFO Revisited. So we weren't talking about anything ghost related, but this did happen. So I'm just going to play this for you a minute. The light you can clearly see is not facing at that time in the direction where you're picking it up. Whether there's another light source that might be causing that on an animal, but again, usually, well, that's weird. That's strange. Hats have just fallen off the wall from behind me, so I've got a ghost with me on the live stream. Just literally knocked all my hats off the wall. Oh, freaky. It'll be interesting to watch that back. Anyway, so I'm in the direction where you're picking it up. Whether there's another light source that might be causing that on an animal, but again, usually... Well, that's weird. Just to point out at this point, so I do my live streams from my cabin down at the bottom of my garden. And so, yeah, if it was a stormy night or a windy night or, conditions like that, it could move the walls. But last Sunday here in Plymouth, it was quite a calm night, still no adverse weather. So there wouldn't have been anything that would have been putting pressure or shaking the wall. And those hats have been up there for a good couple of months. But let me keep strange. Hats have just fallen off the wall from behind me, so I've got a ghost in the direction where you're picking it up. Whether there's another light source that might be causing that on an animal, but again, usually... Well, that's weird. That's strange. Hats have just fallen off the wall from behind me, so I've got a ghost with me on the live stream. Just literally knocked all my hats off the wall. Oh, freaky. It'll be interesting to watch that back. Let me stop that and get rid of it. Yeah, so that happened live last week, and just going back and reviewing the footage. There was definitely, like, it seemed that top hat just sort of pushed itself off the wall. But keep watching that back. Good evening, Katie Fitness. He says, Ghost. Thank you for coming along. Don't forget to give me a like, buddy. Sam Wheat, that's an old school name from the film Ghost with Patrick Swayze. Sam Wheat, thanks, Chris. So that was a bit strange. So I thought I would share that with you before we get into talking about what tonight's episode is all about, which is called Mission to Mars. But again, just before we do get into the main subject, if you do subscribe to us and follow our community thread on this channel, I did do a post a few days ago, one to bring attention to the fact that I was doing the live stream this evening, and secondly to just talk about the fact that I was looking at some stuff on the channel, and I was really, really surprised and shocked when I found out that the story time episodes. So I was talking, or on some of the live streams, I've been talking about the fact that on our channel, we pretty much help you out by putting everything into playlists. So there's G-Star Vault playlist, there's the Star Trek Review playlist, and there's also a story time playlist. And story times are where I just basically narrate a story from the world of paranormal. So it can be about unexplained mysteries, let's think Bigfoot, or about aliens and UFOs, or about ghosts, all sorts of stories. And there's 25 stories on there. And I was going through some of the channel stats the other day and was really, really shocked to realize that one of the episodes of Storytime is the highest subscribed video. So brought the most subscribers to the channel. And that one was called the George Adamski story, part 1. And there's 2 parts to that. But I put a link in the community channel to that playlist, just asking, just saying to everybody, go and check it out. Because I'm pretty proud going back and looking at it. A lot of those videos I haven't looked at in a very long time, almost a year. And the other important thing that I also wanted to mention, which I do talk about on there, and it is really key, is that no AI tools are used to create content on this channel. So when you go and check out those story times and you see all the images that go along with the story, I have to hand pick those images by searching wherever I can to find something that fits the story, and I build them piece by piece. With the story times, they are meant to be like ASMR format, and to kind of help relax you, chill you out, even put you to sleep in some cases. But there's also things that I do with the lighting effects on those story times, which you're meant to lay your device down on the table, switch all the lights off, and the light effects on the video kind of support the sort of emotion in the story, or hopefully that's the aim. So please do go and check them out and let me know what you think. And so I just thought I would give them a bit of a plug before we talk about this evening's main subject. Right, so basically tonight I called the episode Mission to Mars. We're going to get to that in a minute. Before I talk about that, I just want to, if you follow us here on this channel, you will know that on both the live stream Monty Zones, we've talked quite a lot and several times about different aspects of Mars. Whether it be talking about the rovers and the orbiters, or SpaceX, or we talk about a lot of other different conspiracy theories around Mars. Now, over the years that I've been interested in this subject, I've got to be completely honest and say that my approach to Mars is that I truly believe that there is plenty enough excuse me, evidence and signs that there was previously life on Mars. Even in Mazza, she's just said, I do love a story time. Thank you so much. And evening to you. She says, I'm watching, but knitting, so won't be in chat much. Those fingers are busy. No worries, Maz. Thank you so much. But, you know, if I say something that you really want to comment on, please do comment. But enjoy the knitting. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, my theory, after many years of looking into the subject of Mars and having an interest in it, is that I do believe that previously in history, throughout time, there has been life on Mars. And I don't come to that statement very easily. It's taken years of, like, one of the big things that I do is I spend a lot of time looking at the individual there's some great sites where you get all the NASA rover photographs and image, and people put them into landscape versions. I've got some examples to share with you in a minute. On previous videos, I've talked about how I go through all of these images, and they're HD 4K format, so you can really zoom into them, and it takes a long time to actually go through all of the images there. And I found so many strange things over my time. But please don't believe that I easily believe anything that comes to Mars. You know, I used to call myself an open-minded skeptic. I don't call myself an open-minded skeptic anymore. I think open-minded says enough to express what my viewpoint is, and that is that I'm more than willing to consider things from both ends of the spectrum of whether they're genuine or whether they're not genuine. And there's a lot of stuff with Mars that I've, even on this channel, communicated to you and explained and showed you guys how they're not genuine. I've got some examples to share with you of what I'm talking about. So one of the main famous things with Mars, which a lot of people know, is the face of Cydonia, you know, and we've talked quite a lot on this channel about how that is definitely primarily pareidolia, and you know, we've proven how it's pareidolia. There's lots of there's actually more than just this image of the face of Cydonia. It's come up several times, but there are factors that kind of make it look like a face. But again, I'm just giving you an example of where I don't just naturally believe everything. Bear with me one moment. I think I've got a visitor. 2 seconds. Apologies for that. I thought there was my dog at the door. Oh no, hold on. Hello. What are you doing down here? You gonna go and sit up there? Go on then. Good boy. Go and lay down. It's just my friend, my son, Theo. He's come to join in on the live stream. Let's see if I can move out the way and show you guys him. Let's have a look. He's there somewhere. There we go. There he is. Say hi, Theo. There you go. Yeah, just come down to join me on the live stream. Anyway, guys, so yeah, I was talking about stuff that previously on this channel I've gone through and given you good reasons. This is another more recent example. This is the doorway on Mars, and again taken from rover footage, but I was saying to you about how you can go on these websites and look at these type of photographs, and this photograph here is a really good example. And this is where in just the left hand side, just away from the center to the left, is where actually they zoomed in and found the doorway on Mars. We talked we've talked about it on the show before. We've talked about how you can take measurements based on the photo, and really the doorway would be the only thing that could really go in and out of that doorway. Would be like something the size of a dog, so it'd have to be like a little pixie or something like that. But you know, who knows, maybe Martians back in the day when they occupied the planet were tiny. But definitely there's something interesting in the structure itself that definitely brings about interest. But again, why I'm sharing these with you is that I just wanted to kind of indicate to you how definitely don't just look at everything about Mars and just jump to that natural conclusion of strange, but look at ways to explain it. When I look at stuff and I say to you guys, look, I believe that there's more to what we think there is, and that there was life potentially on Mars previous to now, and thousands and thousands of years ago. And this is the sort of thing that, again, I think I used this on a Monty Zone before. This video just gives you a bit of a flavor of the sort of things that I pick up when I'm doing my sort of research and looking at a lot of these photos. So things like this, where you see rocks with like cylindrical holes drilled into them, things that are very difficult to explain away from just like natural elements and natural erosion. Having said that, I do concede that we don't, nobody's been to Mars yet, so you just don't know exactly what the conditions are like on Mars and what erosion could be different to the planet Earth. But again, things where there's definitive ideas of carving or right angles, lots of evidence that I see that shows that there was a previous civilization on Mars. But again, I just wanted to share that with you just to give you a bit of a flavor of the sort of things. Do you want to go again, Theodore? I could go. So, yeah, basically, that's just a bit of a flavor of the kind of things that I see a lot of the time when I'm going through all the various photographs. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff from Orbiter as well. So there's a lot of images that show buildings, or what look like buildings, that have right angles. Just excuse me a moment, guys. I'm just going to have to I'll be back in. Sorry, just checking on Theo and that he's found his way back up to the house. Okay. Right. So, and in terms of this life on Mars, there's a fair few things where, it's not just about what I see in photos. It's all about things that science can tell us as well. And so I'm just going to share a few of those with you now. That kind of does mean that science can also feed into that idea that, well, it's quite possible and it's a potential possibility. So the first thing that I'm going to pull from the world of science is, if we're going to talk about the potential that life was on Mars, thousands and thousands of years ago, first thing we'd have to consider is, okay, is Mars in the Goldilocks zone? Now, for those of you that don't know, the Goldilocks zone in the world of astronomy means that in a solar system, your planet is positioned to a sun or suns in such a way that you're in that zone where things like water can exist, and therefore life. And so we have a Goldilocks zone in this solar system and we sit right in it. But the question is does Mars sit in it? And the answer is yes, it does. It's definitely on the outer edges, but who says that it's always been there? Because again, something that science has shown us is that we can calculate that the sun, every single year orbit, is inching closer and closer to the sun. It's fractional and very tiny measurements, I think 0.7 centimeters or something, but over time we are edging closer to the sun. So who knows, if we're going back, say 20,000, 50,000, 1 million years ago. Who knows whether Mars was where it is right now? It could have been in a different area of that Goldilocks zone. But even now, right this second, it is in the Goldilocks zone. And so that means that, yes, Mars is a sun. It is in the sun's habitable zone, also known as the Goldilocks zone, but it's not currently habitable. The habitable zone is the region around the star where the temperature is right for liquid water to exist on a planet's surface. Mars is near to the outer edge of the sun's habitable zone, and while it can briefly have liquid water on its surface, it's not currently habitable. Mars lacks a magnetic field. That's interesting. Which means solar radiation could strip away any atmosphere it might have, which is the situation that Mars is in right now. But who knows what happened to strip Mars of its magnetic field? But again, just going off to a subsection a moment, or a subject, and that is that, again, actually, I'll come back to that in a minute. I'll stay on this train of thought of the things that kind of from science that can help us think, well, it's very possible. So what things have been found on Mars that could support the idea that life existed on Mars previous to now? Near the rim of the Endeavour crater, Opportunity found bright coloured veins of gypsum in the rocks. These rocks likely formed when water flowed through underground fractures in the rocks, leaving calcium behind. A slam dunk sign that Mars was once more hospitable than it is today. So point 1 and point 2, if you marry them together, Mars is in the Goldilocks zone, but does not have an atmosphere right now, because it has no magnetic field. But it shows signs, and these have been picked up by the rovers in samples that rovers have taken, and then the NASA guys and scientists have gone through all the evidence and findings and shown that there's evidence that there was once water on Mars, so it was habitable, possibly, but it was definitely habitable and in that Goldilocks zone. So let's talk about the key elements of life as well, just before I move on. Monty Band said it wasn't dense enough to keep it. I think he's talking about the magnetic field there, so that could have been a reason for Mars losing its magnetic field. According to Monty Band, he says it wasn't dense enough to keep it. So yes, my third and final point in terms of this life on Mars previous to now, and just reflecting on some things that science tells us, NASA's Curiosity takes inventory of key life ingredient on Mars. This was published in an article in 2022. Scientists using data from NASA's Curiosity rover measured the total organic carbon, a key component in the molecules of life, in Martian rocks for the first time. One of them commented, total organic carbon is one of several measurements or indices that help us understand how much material is available as feedstock for prebiotic chemistry and potentially biology, said Jennifer Stern of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. We found at least 200 to 273 parts per million of organic carbon. This is comparable to, or even more than, the amount found in rocks in very low life places on Earth, such as parts of Atacama Desert in South America, and more than has been detected in Mars meteorites. And again, remember Mars meteorites, that's another interesting one. But that final point and the findings from NASA is quite a strong piece of, let's say, element evidence to indicate that life once flourished on Mars, and that's all to do with the organic carbon that they found in samples that they've brought back or studied from the Curiosity. So that's at least 3 points that give use some confidence to make the leap of faith, I guess, that with all of these type of things in taking them into account, and then also the stuff that I've seen through looking through all the photographs from the Curiosity and all the different rovers in the orbiter as well. I've just come to this leap of faith that I feel very strongly that there's a very good chance that life existed on Mars previous to now. Now, what I can say is from, again, my visual research, what you see in elements of some of the rocks and different shapes and things out there, it doesn't give you that overwhelming sense of advanced civilization. It very much looks like similar to ruins that we'd see in sort of Neolithic periods, or sort of 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. The sort of architecture that you see in very early Egyptian or early Greece. But that's not to say that a different civilization on a different planet couldn't have evolved in a very different way, and that their architecture remained quite simple and organic, but their technological know-how could have been a lot more different situation to ours at that time. So, who knows? There's just another comment come through from Monty there. Yes, but those things can also generate through volcanism. There is still no actual evidence of past life. Yeah, I guess you could say there isn't any evidence that there wasn't any past life, but there isn't any evidence that there to also countermand that argument, as far as I'm concerned. Because again, all we've done thus far is, got a few rovers up on there, and that now they've added to that the little is it called Pathfinder, the little helicopter thing, and we've done orbiters. But if you were talking about like an archaeological study to prove that, or not prove that, we have to get there first, get hands-on to, I think, really get into the know-how of it. But again, if you wanted to go down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole, there's a lot of people out there that feel that we've already got lots more evidence, but it's just being kept under wraps for now. But I still do feel that the evidence that I've shared that then comes from science shows that there was a possible chance of life in the future, in the past. Sorry, yeah. So who knows? I don't think at this stage, what I'm saying, until we sort of can walk on the planet and get there firsthand, I don't think anybody can say either way for 100% certain. That's my feelings on the subject. Anyway, so is that what it's called? The flying helicopter? Is that what it's called? Monty Ingenuity? He's probably right. He knows more about all of that kind of space exploration and SpaceX kind of stuff. I was going to talk a little bit about that right now, or I was originally, but I'm not, because I just think it would go so far down the rabbit hole about how I just think that our race to get to Mars right now, it's got all the wrong momentum behind what is the purpose for it, and the fact that I feel that there's very much and again, I guess some of this comes from documentaries, fictional documentaries that have been thrown about, that it's all really a race for dominance over the fuels and the various chemicals and the things that we can farm from Mars, and I think that's the biggest burning push behind the race. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that race to Mars, because, as I said, this episode was called Mission to Mars. And the reason why I called it Mission to Mars is because there's been this new conspiracy theory sort of formulating over the last few years. And that conspiracy theory is that we've actually already got to Mars. There's already been a mission to Mars, and man has already been on Mars or is on Mars. Now, if you go into this conspiracy theory, there's all sorts of levels to it. The extreme to I guess, something that you could, if you didn't look into it a little bit more, you could believe it. So I'll explain a little bit of background. I mean, some of the real fringe stuff is that a lot of people have said, well, why is it when we see footage of the rovers on Mars all the time that their solar panels are always clean, when there's a lot of dust storms and everything else like that on Mars? Why are they not covered in dust? And they sort of think it's because there's actually astronauts up there that are cleaning them. That's the real fringe kind of stuff on this conspiracy theory. But where this conspiracy theory really got some legs, and I've been doing some research, and it really got legs recently from a YouTube channel called The Y-Files. And I'm not going to say too much disparaging stuff about that channel because it's a big channel, 45 million viewers. So they have a lot of power to do a lot of different various things. And get away with certain things, I guess. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But so I went and researched this conspiracy theory a little bit just to see how much there is behind it. And the one thing that I can tell you is that the first thing that I found, and this was published about 10 years ago, and it was published on Yahoo News. The exact date was 27th of November 2014. And I'm going to read you out this article that was posted on Yahoo News. And it says, NASA worker claims there was a secret manned mission to Mars in 1979. Now, here's the interesting thing, says 1979. Right now, if somebody was claiming that there was a mission to Mars or missions to Mars were going on, it would be very, very unrealistic. And a lot of the skeptics have jumped in straight on this conspiracy theory and said, well, nobody could really send any kind of vessel to Mars without the whole world knowing about it. Because, so many countries, so many different organizations have so much like satellites and telescopes and things, all orbiting the Earth, that there's no way that anybody could get a vessel from this planet over to Mars without it being seen. But that's how it is right now. Back in 1979, that wasn't a consideration. So going back to this article, manned mission to Mars in 1979, conspiracy theorists have gone wild over a confession from a woman who claims to be a former NASA employee that she saw human beings on Mars in 1979. Jackie claims she saw humans walking towards the lander in 1979. Conspiracy theorists have gone wild over this confession from a woman who claims to be a former NASA employee that she saw human beings on Mars in 1979. Now, a couple of things I just want to point out right this second, and that is that so far we've got someone who claims to have been a former NASA employee, so not employed with them anymore. So instantly you ask yourself a question, why? Or, no explanation as to whether it was a choice to leave or whether they were forced to leave, which would definitely add to the story. And also, I've just got to point out, you guys have probably worked it out already, but this person is just being named as Jackie. No second name, so no real details to allow us to look into the credibility of this person. So it goes on to say the woman called Jackie called into an American radio station, Coast to Coast AM, with the claim. Now, Coast to Coast AM is a channel that specifically focuses on content that is to do with the unexplained and all sorts of conspiracy theories, which reignited gossip over a secret space program kept from the general public. Jackie claims to have seen spacesuited humans via a live video feed from Mars, but that the information was covered up by NASA bosses. It goes on to further say that Viking 1 and 2 sent back the first data from Mars in the 1970s. Jackie claimed that to have been part of a downstairs team working on downlink telemetry from the Viking lander, the first vehicle to send images back from the surface of Mars. I wonder if you could solve a 27-year-old mystery for me, she asked the presenter. That old Viking rover was running around. Then I saw two men in spacesuits. Not the bulky suits we normally used, but they looked protective. They came over the horizon walking to the Viking Explorer. Jackie claims that she and 6 others witnessed the 2 humans walking on the surface and rushed upstairs to the main NASA offices, only to have the door closed in their faces. She says, we ran upstairs, but they locked the door and taped paper over the door so we couldn't see. My question is, were they our guys? And I think there's a couple of things that have been popped up in this article to kind of support, or I guess lend credence towards Jackie's story. That is, Vikings 1 and 2 landed in 1975 and 1976 and sent back the first data about the Martian surface, including a distinct lack of extraterrestrial life. NASA says, although no traces of life were found, Viking found all the elements essential to life on Earth: carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus were present on Mars. None of Jackie's employees have collaborated this story, but UFO sites have toured it with other reports of a secret space program, which began when humans landed on Mars in 1968. Conspiracy theorists believe that this is being kept from the ordinary public for various sinister reasons, and that NASA and other governments are covertly in contact with aliens. Some of these theorists believe that the current Curiosity rover is a giant hoax, pointing to the vehicle's shiny solar panels as evidence that they are being polished by humans already on Mars. Nigel Watson, who's the author of the Hayes UFO Investigations Manual, says these accounts of secret space missions seem to be growing in number and remind me of the infamous Project Serpo. In November 2005, a contact called Anonymous, who said they worked for the US Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, started sending information about the extraordinary alien exchange program called Project Serpo. Basing his claims on a 3,000-page document written in the late 1970s, he boldly claimed that 6 aliens were recovered from the Roswell crash. Claims that aliens living and or dead were recovered from Roswell crash are nothing new, but in this case, it was stated that an alien survivor from the crash called EB1 helped to organize 12 specially trained people to visit his home planet Serpo in the Zeta Reticuli solar system. This mission occurred in 1965 and they remained there until 1978. During their stay, 2 of them died, 2 remained on the planet, and the rest, after returning to Earth, have died because of high levels of radiation that they were exposed to on Serpo. Bill Ryan, who posted these claims online, concluded that Serpo's story is a mixture of disinformation, i.e. truth mixed with added fictional elements, and naturally occurring compounded errors surrounding a core of extraordinary truth. So that's an article that I was able to find that leads into this theory of a secret mission to Mars. However, I then started looking at some other sources, and one of the big things that's creating a bit of a stir at the moment, as I said, they have over 45 million subscribers. This particular video has over 2 million views, and this comes from a YouTube channel called Wi-Files. Sorry, I can't play it to you because I think if I play something from that channel, we will get stung with heavy copyright straight off because of the size of the channel. However, what was interesting is I think I put a link in the description. So what I've put in the description is a link to the Wi-Fi's video and some other bits on there and some other things that I want to talk about this evening as well. Yeah, so links are in the description if you want to go and check out the Wi-Fi's video. Now, here's the interesting thing about this video. I'm pretty sure if you go on it now, it will say that it was posted like 14 or 15 days ago. And I'm pretty sure that I saw this same video a couple of years ago. And that's an interesting thing that some of these big channels can do, and they can get away with it. And that is that they upload content. 10 million people watch it. They've got 45 million followers. Then they take it down again, leave it down for a while, and then they put it back up again as a brand new video. And then another 10 million people watch it. And so I'm pretty sure that I saw this a few years ago. Now, what's the main core thing in this video is that the presenter talks about the fact that he's found out this information that there was this secret project, this mission to Mars called Project Red Sun. I believe it's Project Red Sun. So then I started thinking, right, okay, well, if there was a Project Red Sun and this guy kind of knows about it from some form of source, then, there should be some mention of it out there, because even though this guy's on a really big YouTube channel, I'm sure he hasn't got access to confidential and top secret files any more than I have. So where did the story of Project Red Sun come from? Well, again, doing my research, the only reference that I can find to Project Red Sun is within multiple sources that feed into this video that Y-Files has uploaded. And some of those sources, like IMDb, are older than 15 days. So it then goes to prove that this person uploaded this video previously, and it's been, documented on a few sites. And they come up in search parameters if you search Project Red Sun, as does the current video that has been re-uploaded 15 days ago. So Project Red Sun, I cannot find any evidence out there, even remotely, of anybody else speaking about this conspiracy theory. The only thing that I can find is Jackie's article. So I've got a strong feeling, and so sorry to disappoint you all, but I am just kind of debunking this conspiracy theory. I think that this guy who presents on this channel saw this article 10 years ago from Yahoo News, has thought, oh, this person's saying that there was some sort of program or, mission to Mars, and that maybe I could just give it a name and then say, because he does go on to talk about this person came forward and said that they'd seen it, and I think he's referring to Jackie. So I think that's where it's all come from. But, the fact that any reference to this Project Red Sun, unless the presenter on there has got some connections with top secret government people where he can get access to files that we can't get access to, there is no mention anywhere that I can find of this Project Red Sun. So, I'm thinking that it's all pretty much just fabrication. And one of the things that social media does today that makes a lot of people convinced that what they're telling you is the truth, and it isn't. So, and again, that goes back to where I was talking at the beginning of the episode about the fact that I don't believe everything that see, read, or whatever. You've got to look into it. You've got to research it. And so there is definitely things that I've come forward with and said, look, there's an explainable reason around these pictures, what they are. But there's a lot of things at the same time that I've come across that aren't easy to explain. I was saying to you earlier, again, you can go back and look at one of my G-Star Vault videos where I show you some of the images that I'm looking at from Rover. And just one image there, I sort of, found so much weird stuff in it. This was before the days of the Ingenuity helicopter, and there was black things in the sky. Remember, on Mars, there's no atmosphere. There's not meant to be any life birds, anything like that, anything that can explain something flying through the air. But you can see things in the distance, in the air. And again, this was before the times of Ingenuity, so it's not like the rover's picked up its own other sister device. But yeah, again, really interesting. Let me know what you think about the conspiracy theory that I've been talking about. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you've read something or heard something. And if you're not watching live, please do feel free to still leave a comment and share with me your thoughts. But please comment. And if you haven't done so already, please give us a like. And once again, please share and help our channel. Sharing is the biggest thing that can really help us, because you end up dropping our video on your friend's feed, and then they watch it and then they share it with their friends. Best way to get the good news about. But yeah, so main thing is, though, let me know what you think of both what I was saying at the start of the show about my theories around life on Mars back, in history, not now. But yeah, and also let me know what you thought about that conspiracy theory. Maybe you disagree with me and you think there's something to it. Yes, that's exactly right, Monty. Sharing is caring. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I just want to talk about next week's show, because I am back again with you next Sunday. And coming on the show next Sunday, I've got my first guest since going live with the G-Star Vaults, and they're coming on, as I said, next Sunday, and it's the guys from the Unexplained Files. We have had them guest with us before on the Monty Zone. That was some time ago. And then following that, I went out on an investigation with the lads, Steve and Ryan. We went and investigated a location called Wistman's Woods on Devon. And I never got round to sharing that video. They uploaded it on their channel. It's had over 500 views, one of their more popular videos, sorry. And their channel is going from strength to strength. Evening, Sean, thank you for joining along. Please remember to hit that thumbs up. That would be helpful if you're just popping in and out. But hopefully you can go and watch the rest of the show that you missed after the live stops and watch it post-production. But yeah, evening, Sean. And so I went out with the guys. It was about 9 months ago. They uploaded the video. Their channel's doing really, really well. And that video's had over 500 views. Again, just go back to the description. There's a link to that video if you want to watch me guesting on their channel out with them investigating. But I am going to upload a video to the Underground Paradox soon when I've got some time to pull it all together. And what that video is going to include, I've talked about it on the Underground Paradox channel, and it's going to include some footage where I went out and investigated with some of the guys from the Black Crow Paranormal Society. That was at a location called Trinity Church in Devon. I never ended up sharing that footage, and I'm also going to sandwich that with the footage that I got where I went out with Steve and Ryan investigating on Wistman's Woods in Devon. So that's a video that's coming up on the Underground Paradox. And again, as I was saying earlier, if you haven't checked out my other channel, Underground Paradox, or subscribed yet, link is in the description. Please go and check it out. That would be amazing support. So yeah, let me just share it for those of you. So I love the guys. I really do enjoy their channel. They have been branching out more. Primarily, they are much about sort of, supernatural and ghosts, but they've been branching out and doing a lot of things and reviewing other areas of paranormal, like cryptozoology as well, and doing various things. But yeah, go and check their channel out. Link is in the description to the video where I guested with them if you want to go and check them out. But they're joining me next week on the show. I'm going to be catching up with them, talking about things that they've been coming across lately, how the channel's going. But also the main reason why I invited them is because Steve put a comment on one of my videos, the UFOs of 2024 video, and he basically said, it sounds very similar, talking about the sighting that I had in Spain, to an experience that he had as a young boy. And so I've asked if he'd come along and talk about that a little bit, but we'll be having a general catch up with the guys, Steve and Ryan. So make sure you join me next Sunday at 7 p.m. for that one. We've got a really cool comment from Mazza here that says, I would question the authenticity of someone calling in anonymously to a radio chat show. If the person's credentials can't be verified, they could be anyone saying anything they like. Yeah, I think, I 100% agree with what you're saying there, Maz. As I was saying earlier on about the article on Yahoo News and just referring to the person as Jackie. That's a giveaway sign. I mean, there's a lot of things in the world of the paranormal where they hide it under the fact that, these people need to remain anonymous because, they've got access to top secret information that they're sharing, which then they've signed things to say that they won't, and they could be held accountable. But I just think actually, no, if you want anybody to believe that it's going to be credible, you've got to show your name. But however, that doesn't even work sometimes, because all you got to do, I'll be touching on it a little bit next week. little bit too hot off the press to talk about it this right now on this show, but I do want to digest a little bit more of all the latest round of UFO congressional hearings that have been going on, because they've been happening like since middle of last week and happening again. What I have seen has just been equally frustrating as the first round, where it's a lot of people saying, I can't disclose that information in this public domain, and you're kind of like, well, what are you here for then? What are you whistleblowing on? Because you're actually not telling us anything. So again, I've expressed on the G Star Vaults and on the Monty Zone and on this channel before that I get really, really frustrated at those congressional hearings. I think that the world gets stupidly excited about them, and actually I just think it's all a big smokescreen and further rubbish to distract us from what is actually going on, because there's always people coming forward, but they're not actually saying anything that's concrete or gives you enough tangible evidence. But anyway, I will be touching on them next week once I've digested a little bit more what's been going on and what's been said this week. But thank you for your comment, Maz. Very good, reasonable, logical thinking. So that's it for me for this week. A pretty short and snappy show, but hope you enjoyed the mission to Mars. As I said, we've got the Star Trek review show coming up on Wednesday with Monty and the crew. Unfortunately, they don't know this yet, but I can't join them because I'm going away on holiday, because I'm on holiday this week. Yay. So yeah, but join those guys for another review of Picard on the Star Trek review show. That should be ace. And then I'll be back with you live next Sunday for our first guests on the live podcast, and that's going to be the guys from the Unexplained Files UK. So thank you to everybody who's joined me this evening, and everybody that's made a comment, shared your thoughts. And if you're watching this back after live, please don't forget to still share your thoughts and share your comments with me. Cheers, Courtney. Thank you for coming on and watching also. And yeah, we had Katie Fitness join us, Mazza, Sean. We had Monty. And then also before the show, he was going to get a cup of, it must take him ages to make a cup of tea. Stealth Andy Steve was making a cup of tea and coming back, but obviously took too long to make the cup of tea. And then we also had Mickey Aquariums, who joined us before the show, but I don't know what happened. It's something I'm going to have to investigate, because it's a paranormal situation in its own, that his comment that he left before the show seems to have disappeared. So who knows why that happened, but thank you for leaving a comment anyway. Thank you to everybody. I'll see you next Sunday. Stay safe, look after one another, and I'll see you next Sunday. Cheers, guys.